What's going on, guys? My name is Matt. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me. This is my 1981 XV1000, and in this episode we're going to bump the compression up, and I'll show you how. Let's go. This engine was out of an 84 or 85 XV1000. I'm not 100% sure of the history of this engine. All I really know is that it sort of was I think it was involved in an accident, and they pulled it out because they knew it was still fine, and then I bought it. So bought it for really cheap. It's $250. I slapped my VM34 carburetors on it and my exhaust system that I made for the 750 engine. It all fits up perfectly and all well and good. The improvements power-wise from the 750 to this engine, amazing. But I didn't really want to stop there. I'd heard stories of people putting 750 heads on these to bump the compression up. So the 750 head, so from here up, that section, the chamber inside is actually smaller, which will in turn bump the compression. So seeing as though I've got two 750 engines in the back shed, why wouldn't I do that? So what we're going to do next is basically go out to the shed, rip apart the good 750 engine, and see where we are when the dust settles. So I want to get it all ready, get it prepped, so I don't want to drop this motor out and have this thing off the road for, you know, however long, when I don't have anything ready. So I'd rather go out there, have a look at the parts I've got, and make a little bit of a part list, you know. I'm also going to upgrade the bearing for the camshaft from the old bush top, which is what they come with standard, to a ball bearing style bearing, which is a common upgrade for these things. So anyway, let's jump out the shed, start ripping the engine apart. Shouldn't take too long from what I remember, and yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, so the engine is in there. There's also another one here, but it's obviously buried, so we'll get all this crap out of the way. R1's out of the way. We'll move all this out and drag it out, and we'll show you what we're working with, and then we'll start ripping it apart. So this is, as I explained earlier, the original engine out of the Cafe Racer. It's physically still in good nick, although I snapped something off. What did I do? I snapped something off it in here, like this little casting piece here. This is a shit engine anyway. It's got like the crap starter and everything. You can't put an upgraded starter in it. So, I mean, the heads would probably be okay, but I don't want to risk it. I know that motor's good, so that's why I'm not using this one. Here's the big dog. Okay. So this is the other one. Okay, so one problem I did have with this engine, right, was that the jug on this cylinder head actually became pretty porous. I think after I sandblasted it, and I just had this constant oil leak, and there was one point where it got really, really bad, to where we were on a trip and I had to jam a rag in there and zip tie it, which was terrible. But yeah, it's always had a problem with leaking, which sucks, but whatever. We're only in it for the heads. So all we're gonna do really is pop these cam covers off, oil lines off, spark plugs out so we can get to these nuts. And yeah, the 4 bolts, the 4 nuts holding it down. And then there's I think there's two little bolts, little hex heads that hold it to the jug, and then it'll come out. Well, you got to pull the cam chain off, but that's the easy part. But yeah, so I reckon, I don't know, 15 minutes, probably should have these off once I have all the tools. The worst part about any job is finding tools, and if you're a mechanic or you're handy, you probably know that already. Anyway, let's do it. that had oil all around it. So what I think happened, this was that rear cylinder. Yeah, it's still pretty beautiful, isn't it? It's really nice. Oh, look at that, mate. I've got it in front. So this is that rear cylinder that had the really bad oil leak for years. So I reckon the seal that sits around here actually failed, which, I mean, I reckon anybody could probably come to that conclusion. It's failed and it's sitting, look where it's sitting. It's all around here, and this was a Chinese gasket kit, so I'm definitely not making that mistake again. I'll go genuine. Okay, that's it. That's as hard as it gets for disassembly. Like pulling this apart, it's pretty much as hard as it gets. And honestly, it makes me a little bit sad to pull this one apart now that I'm doing it. But doesn't matter. We'll get this thing living again. I'm sure I'll reuse it at some point in some other project. Yeah, because the jugs are really nice. They've been bored out and everything. Not bored out, sorry, honed. The gaskets are still pretty nice, but you'd obviously replace those. Cylinder walls look beautiful. This thing was making good compression, pretty good power for a 750. And I was really happy with it, but apart from this leak, which was obviously pretty bad, starting to touch the head gasket as well. So these are the XV1000 head gaskets. They resemble the same shape as this. So they've, from what I understand, they've done away with this sort of like fire ring and O-ring, and you just put this on it. It's just got a normal multi-layer head gasket, which is great. I've got some bearings. Now, these engines have obviously overhead camshafts, and they actually have an aluminium bushing, so which looks like this. This one's I took one out of the other engine, so that's what it looks like. All right. So a lot of people say these cause a lot of friction and whatnot, so they replaced them with ball bearings. So this is a 6205 C3 bearing. I can't remember the measurements off the top of my head, but yeah, that's all it is. These cost me $16.80 each. There's obviously 2 of them. And what you do is, like, there's a lot of debate on the internet, and I don't really want to start one, but what I'm going to do, well, actually, I'm not even sure what I'm going to do at the moment. I'm definitely going to keep the grease out of it, clean the grease out of it. And the reason I'm talking about the debate is a lot of people are saying you keep one seal on and you face this outwards, the open side, and then there's another group of people, which I think is more logical, facing the open part inward. That way the oil, when it gets pumped up to the head, goes inside, properly lubricates the bearing, and then it can always come down at the oil drain. That's the oil drain there. So it always had 2 passages. It had coming through the cam, through the bushing, I guess, like that, and coming out of here. But there's also a third group saying just leave it open, completely open. And to be honest with you, I think I might just do that. So we'll pop these cams out and we'll change the bearings over. I want to clean this grease out, like I said, and then I'll throw some oil in it before I put it in, and then that'll be sweet. Pop that in. Well, we've got to pull the bushing out of this one, and then we'll pop this in. We'll have a good look at the camshaft as well while it's out, and then give the head a final clean, and then it's ready to go on the bike when the bike's ready. Got a little camshaft bolt I can pop in there. These should come out pretty easy as long as everything is loose. So this is how I do it. I don't care how you do it, but this is how I do it. Easy. So that's the bushing. In all honesty, these are fine. The upgrade isn't necessary. Sure, it reduces drag or whatever, mechanical drag and friction, but well, there's a little bit of pitting on that. See that? A little bit of pitting on that cam. Look at it on the front as well. And the rockers look okay. I've got another engine, so I might pull the cam out of the other engine and just see if it's any better. If it's any better, I'll swap it over. You can see here it says 1 being cylinder 1. So you can't, obviously they're timed different and everything, and the valves open at different times. Yeah, it's actually mushrooming over a bit too. It's interesting. I don't know if you can, probably can't pick it up, but it's kind of mushrooming on the edges. So yeah, I'll get the other cam and I'll see if that one's any better. Okay, we've got the other one out. It was super easy because it was already loose. So you can see number 1. Oh, this one looks a lot better. A lot better. It's, although on camera it might look really scored, or you can see the lines on it, but that's fine. I can't feel them with my finger. It's all smooth, so it's not a problem in my mind. So this is the cam I'll use for this head. So we'll pop that back in like that. And that will be a spare, or probably just a throwaway now, thinking about it. Okay, so the camshaft's back in. I've got this dot lined up here, which will mean this is actually timed at the moment, and then I'll just have to do a valve adjustment later on. Bearing, just clean it off a little bit. Pop that in. Hopefully. Oh, doesn't like that. I test fitted this bearing on another camshaft and it went straight in. So this one might just need a little bit of a love tap. There we go. It slides straight in. Look at that. That looks sick. Now we put the little retainer plate on, which is this little retainer bracket. Like I said, I'm going to leave it open. It's up to you what you want to do. I would dare say that's the 3 options that you get, that you should have. Leaving the seal facing outward, which is, I would say, probably my next preference to this. You know, it will be able to pump oil up here, and then it'll get to this seal. It'll lubricate the bearing, and then it'll come back. It'll pull up under here because that's where the drain is, right there. All the oil will end up pulling up over here, and then it'll drain back there. That makes sense, right? But this also makes sense in my opinion. It's open, yes, but it's got a full cage in it. It's like it's fully enclosed. So once the oil is pumped here, this bearing is going to sling this around inside that. But also, in my opinion, it's going to sling and then drop and drain. So I think this bearing is going to have plenty of lubrication, and there's no doubt in my mind it'll be fine. But I think the other way, if you've got the seal facing inward, that to me makes no sense. Sure, the camshaft being the cam chain being slung around will definitely provide some oil, but the oil actually gets pumped up through here, through the rockers. So to me, well, through the rockers and also through the camshaft itself, because the oil passage goes down the guts of the cam. You can see it lubricates the bearings that way. So yeah, that to me doesn't necessarily make any sense. Okay, so that one's done. Move on to the second one. Oh, that one came out nice and easy. Oh, yeah, it's starting to pit. You can see it. Okay, let's do a little valve adjustment. Valve clearances on a cold engine. It's pretty cold. Intake be 0.1 millimeters and exhaust is 0.15. Back off the nut. Put your adjuster on. Alright, that's going to do it for this episode. We got a lot done. Ripped the old heads off the 750 engine, found the cams were a bit shagged, swapped them out, changed the camshaft bearings as well, did the valve clearances, painted them up, boom, boom, boom. In the next episode, we're going to get the cafe up to the shed, rip the engine back out, swap the heads over, torque them down, slam it back in the bike, and hopefully kick it in the ass and see how it goes. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Try and get to that 1K subs very soon, and that will greatly help me. I'm so close and I'm really enjoying making this content for you. So thanks again. See you in the next one.